And now I would like to invite Dr. Conchita Hickey, Dean Emeritus of University College, to speak with you about Reading the Globe.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Welcome, faculty and staff, but principally, welcome, freshmen, my favorite group of students. Woo. All right, in a few minutes, you're going to hear a presentation from 15 very fortunate and talented students who won the competition for a trip to Cambodia, which was based on the Reading the Globe Common Read. Now, you all are the 12th class to be participating in this Reading the Globe program through your reading of Never Stop Walking in your freshman seminar class, and it's focused on Brazil. So pretty much by the end of October, 15 of you sitting here were going to be selected to travel, all expenses paid, to Brazil. And so we're very excited about this opportunity every year. The flags back here represent the 12 countries that we have already visited. So this is the 12th year that we do this program. And I want to take the opportunity to thank our administration, particularly our presidents and vice presidents and our deans who all support, and our staff who support this marvelous program. So I hope you enjoy the show. I want, before we started, to just recognize Dr. Haley Kazin and Lucy Maldonado, who led the trip last year. So they're right there. And but let's get on with the show. The students have been practicing, and they're very excited to share their travel experiences with you. We hope you enjoy it.
As a student who is in your position, I can only imagine what you must be thinking. What is this presentation about? Last year, we heard the story of the TAMIU students who went to Russia. But this year, we are fortunate enough to tell you ours. At the beginning of last year, my freshman class was required to read the book First They Killed My Father. The book immediately grabbed my attention, and I became aware of how little I knew about the world around me. It was about a 6-year-old Cambodian girl named Lung, whose life changed when the Khmer Rouge regime overthrew the Cambodian government in 1975, about 45 years ago. I learned about the struggle of Lung and her family as they tried to survive the brutalities of the Khmer Rouge and the dictator Pol Pot. When the time came to write the essay, I knew it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I had to give myself the chance. At first, I had to overcome my fears about writing the essay, but I knew traveling would take me outside of my comfort zone. What did I have to lose? When I got selected, I couldn't believe it. I was finally going to experience life outside of my small town, Roma. The trip itself taught me so much. It expanded my horizons and showed me that I want to make a difference in this world. Becoming a Reading the Globe ambassador was one of the best decisions I ever made. It changed my world and life perspective. I was exposed to a different culture, language, and my fellow ambassadors ended up becoming some of my closest friends. Before I knew it, I was 9,213 miles away from Laredo. Our first stop was Phnom Penh. It was the beginning of an adventure that I will always hold dear to my heart.
Before reading First They Killed My Father, I did not know anything about the Cambodian genocide. Thanks to Reading the Globe, I was given the opportunity to travel to Cambodia, to explore, learn its culture, meet its people, basically experience another world. It was not until we visited the killing fields that we realized the consequences of the genocide. Our guide described how the Khmer Rouge carried out the killings. We remained silent, observing, and learning about the pain and horror thousands of innocent people suffered. Towards the end of our tour, we arrived at the memorial tower, filled with the skulls and bones of the victims. I stood in front of the tower, placing down the burning incense and flowers in my hand, and I realized the images I painted in my mind while reading the book did not come close to the cruel reality these victims faced. After visiting the killing fields, we reflected on the profound impact of the whole experience. Needless to say, the bus ride to the next destination was silent.
S21, Security Prison 21. Once a place for learning, Jalapun Hadyat High School became a place of imprisonment, torture, and execution. Dozens, hundreds, thousands of people entered this place, but few left it. As we walk through its floors, the photographs of those that perished there fill our eyes. Frightening and depressing, they started to fade away. They became a single recognizable face everywhere we look. An emotional detachment happened, and that is when I realized the importance of that place. The prisoners never left the place, as visitors dehumanized their existence into a simple historical fact that did not cause any feeling anymore. Now, I carry their faces with me to never forget what once happened in that place.
While we were in Cambodia, we were given the opportunity to meet with both a survivor and perpetrator of the Khmer Rouge genocide. Absolutely none of us knew what to expect when the perpetrator walked into the room. However, we definitely did not envision an elderly man who at first glance did not resemble our image of a Khmer Rouge soldier. He was extremely open to our questions and spoke about his life as a farmer before he was forced to join the Khmer Rouge. At the end of our meeting, we shared a few laughs together as he recounted how his neighbor was shocked to learn that he was once a perpetrator. That same day, we met with a former prisoner of S21. Despite his time at the prison and losing his family because of the genocide, the man had a positive outlook. He had recently published a memoir about the impact the Khmer Rouge had on his life, and through his writing, he shared what many Cambodians endured. This has inspired other survivors to come forth with their stories. It's easy to imagine tragedies like these as stories. However, behind the words written are pain, sorrow, loss, and guilt, felt deeply by real people with real families, just like us.
In the city of Phnom Penh, we spent most of our time at the Documentation Center of Cambodia, also known as the DCCAM. It is a US-funded organization dedicated to promoting memory, justice, and reconciliation after the genocide. One of their major accomplishments has been to incorporate the genocide's history into the school curriculum, since the recent generation are questioning the genocide even occurred. They have as well contributed information they've gathered to the court trials that indicted many of the Khmer Rouge soldiers. During our visit, we also enjoyed a documentary about the history of rock and roll in Cambodia and the punishment that artists encountered during the Khmer Rouge rule and the emotion they felt when music was torn away from them. To promote DC Camp's mission of keeping history alive, they used art as a way to involve many students. We were surrounded by many works of art portraying students' imagination about what Phnom Penh could have been if the genocide had not occurred. The detailed artwork showed Cambodian students' talent and the hope they have for the reconstruction of Phnom Penh. The works of art were breathtaking and made us ponder the grave effects of war.
Traveling to northern Cambodia, we arrived at the city of Siem Reap. In this wonderful city, we visited one of the 7 wonders of the world, Angkor Wat. At 5 in the morning, we made our way deep into the jungle of Siem Reap as complete darkness surrounded us. Our guide was the gravel beneath our feet and the flashlights of our cell phones. Soon, we found the ruins of the greatest gem of Cambodia. We stood at the edge of the lake in front of the temple and patiently waited for the sun to rise. The colors of the sky turned from blue to purple to pink to orange, and the beauty of the temple was revealed as the sun rose. This majestic temple covers 406 acres of land, almost twice the size of our campus. Angkor Wat was built during the 12th century, originally constructed to be a Hindu temple. It later became a Buddhist temple. The architecture is incredibly complex. Every brick is carefully placed, and the history carved into its walls is impeccably crafted. Stories from wars to gods still remain within the walls of the temple. The 5 main pillars on the temple are meant to represent Mount Meru, the home of the devas, or the gods. We visited one of the most beautiful sites on earth and immersed ourselves into the history of Cambodia.
Religion gives many people purpose to their lives. It is hard to fathom the conditions a society would suffer without a system of their core beliefs. Under the Khmer Rouge, this became a reality. In Cambodia, the practice of religion was stripped completely. Prior to the war, 93% of Cambodia's population practiced Buddhism. The Khmer Rouge considered monks parasitic to their perfect society, and therefore often killed them. Imagine the impact of abolishing a religion practiced by so many. Actually, Buddhism is a lifestyle rather than a religion, but it is important to note that it is highly influenced by Hinduism. Islam is another religion practiced by Cambodians. Muslims were also subjected to the cruelties of the genocide. Many of them were forced to practice their religion in secrecy for fear of execution. We were inspired by the admirable faith and courage of those willing to carry their beliefs to the grave. Despite our diverse beliefs, the religious communities of Cambodia instilled in us hope that we can experience happiness in spite of adversity.
During the course of the trip, I, as well as some fellow ambassadors, experienced a holiday normally spent with family in a country halfway around the world. We celebrated the New Year in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, among the locals. We took a tuk-tuk to the riverside and were instantly surprised by the number of people, motorcycles, and vendors filling the streets. Families sat by the riverside, popping fireworks, waiting for midnight. Colorful boats lit up the river with people dancing and celebrating. The smell of smoke from the fireworks and food filled the air. In the distance, spotlights from a stage lit up the sky, and we could hear the faint cheers of fans. As midnight approached, the revelers moved from the streets to the riverbank, and everyone began the countdown together. When the clock struck 12, cheers, screams, hugs, and laughter filled the air, and the sky became beautifully lit by hundreds of fireworks. Even though we may have been reluctant to spend the New Year away from our loved ones, we decided to take a leap and embrace the unknown. In return, we received beautiful, once-in-a-lifetime memories that we would never forget.
When the ambassadors and I found out that our trip had been extended to Thailand, we knew that this was another chance to connect with Luang's journey. Similar to Cambodia, we realized that Thailand's traditions and culture are reflected through its temples. First, we visited Wat Pho, best known for having the Temple of the Reclining Buddha. Measuring 46 meters long and 15 meters high, the beautiful gold-plated statue could not be captured in photos because it was enormous. I was looking at one of the largest Buddha statues in Thailand. The reclining Buddha represents the Buddha entering nirvana after the end of all reincarnation. Although its main attraction is the reclining Buddha, hundreds of other Buddha images and statues rest within the temple, making it one of the most sacred places. Later, we took a long-tail boat ride and crossed the Chao Phraya River to arrive at the Temple of Dawn, measuring approximately 2 soccer fields. It was a sight to see. Resiliency and peace were a central theme I experienced at every place we visited. Although it was built more than 300 years ago, the temple still stood tall and strong. The culture and history that each temple held mesmerized us all as we walked through them, learning their importance to the people of Thailand.
One of my favorite sites in Thailand was a Buddhist park, Buddhamontun. In the park, we transitioned from a fast-paced city life to a more serene environment.
the perfect way to truly reflect on our journey. Guided by a monk, we had the opportunity to admire nature. In this park, we learned more about the Buddhist way of life by understanding its background and philosophy. Buddha had 4 stages of life that helped him find his inner peace. We strolled around the park to see the visual representations of his life, enlightenment, first sermon, and death. Along the way, we learned that in Buddhism, happiness can be achieved not by living comfortably, but by having peace of mind. The monk's wise words have taught me a new philosophy of life, one that I had not considered before. Traveling to Thailand has made me grow as a person, something that will stay with me forever.
Part of our experience as Reading the Globe ambassadors was spending time with people in both Cambodia and Thailand by doing homestay visits. A homestay is basically staying with a local family when traveling to foreign countries. Our first homestay visit was in rural Cambodia, where the houses were simple, cozy wood structures elevated on stilts. In each of the 3 rooms that we stayed in, there was a large bare mat surrounded by a mosquito net and a solar-powered fan. However, we could only use one electrical source at a time, so it was either keeping the light on, keeping the fan on, or charging our phones. We all opted for the fans. Our guide even had to teach us how to flush the toilet by having to pour bucketfuls of water into it. Later, our tour guide took us to his own village center where we played with the village kids for the rest of the afternoon. It was an amazing experience. We played duck, duck, goose, freeze tag, and even some volleyball with the older kids. Our next homestay visit was in the Amphawa floating village in Thailand. Here, all 15 of us stayed in the same house. Once inside, we discovered that the back of the house was open to a river that the locals used for transport. The house was walking distance from the famous Amphawa floating village, where we purchased goods and later took a nocturnal firefly boat tour. The magic of seeing the night sky in utter darkness and the excitement of having our boat break down in the middle of the river made for an unforgettable experience. These homestay experiences have helped me better understand the way of life in both Cambodia and Thailand. By stepping outside of my comfort zone, I was able to empathize with the locals and realize the great differences and similarities we all share as people.
Everyday life in Cambodia was filled with life, culture, adventures, and warm smiles from local people. Even though many Cambodians lost everything when the Khmer Rouge took over, their resilience sustained them. As we walked through the city of Phnom Penh, the architecture spoke about the history of Cambodia and its people. Through the buildings, we saw how they overcame the adversities of war and built a new promising path. The Cambodian culture was showcased in a dance performance titled Earth and Sky. Through this performance, we learned about the village life and ancestral traditions. We learned that Cambodia valued the arts as a way to promote memory, justice, and reconciliation for all the horrors that they suffered before. During the day, we treated ourselves to local foods inspired by Cambodian history. Curiosity filled our minds as we feasted on Khmer red curry and tarantulas. Through this, we embraced the local culture and became comfortable in our new environment. Through Reading the Globe, I grew as an individual and became thankful for experiencing one of the happiest moments in my life. We all have habits in our daily routine, from how we arrive at our places of work and study to how we earn money to put a meal on our table. It is what we have in common with those around us. On our visit to Cambodia and Thailand, we noticed a very different set of habits, particularly when it came to transportation and daily living routines. Cars and tour buses were outnumbered by motorcycles and tuk-tuks, which are the most common way to go from point A to point B. Both
tourists and locals use tuk-tuks since it costs as little as $1 or $2 to arrive at your destination. Every time we got on a tuk-tuk, because of the open cab, we had the opportunity to look around and notice details about Cambodian and Thai culture. As we passed through the markets, we noticed how many people and families depend on their market sales, such as prepared foods, arts and crafts, flowers, and more. They even sell you the opportunity to hold a tarantula. As we were choosing souvenirs to take home, they welcomed us into a part of their lives, and we got a taste of their fascinating culture.
As our trip came to an end, I and all my fellow ambassadors were left with memories and life lessons. For 2 weeks, we had spent every moment learning and adapting to a completely different culture from our own. Every day came with its own share of challenges that we all look back on and smile about. This opportunity provided by our university was something that I had never envisioned myself doing. One thing that I cherish more from this trip than the beautiful sights is learning that happiness can be found in the smiles and laughter of those who surround you. I am overwhelmed with emotions at the sudden realization that I'm living through some of the best days of my life. And although this experience has now become a memory, it has forever changed who I am as a person. When I made the decision to attend Texas A&M International last year, as all of you have, I was completely unaware of how true the international aspect of this university would be. Looking back at where I was a year ago, sitting in a classroom, discussing a book about a country I had no idea even existed, really opened up my eyes to the reality that we have so much more to learn beyond these walls, and we have the power to make a world of difference. With the help of Reading the Globe, we have been able to have a unique and memorable educational experience that taught us the power of resiliency. The stories that you have heard today about our experiences could easily be you. TAMIU is opening up the doors to the rest of the world, and it is up to you to walk through them.